Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that, let's be honest, can strike fear into the hearts of healthcare pros everywhere. NABH documentation. But what if I told you it doesn't have to be a nightmare? What if it's actually your blueprint for excellence? Let's get into it.
Yeah. Does this feeling ring a bell? That sinking feeling in your gut when you even think about the piles and piles of policies, procedures, and records you need for accreditation. You're not alone. It's so easy to feel like you're just drowning in paperwork. You know, for so many hospitals, hearing "the audit is coming" sounds like a line from a horror movie, right? It immediately brings up these images of just endless checklists, mountains of paper. All for what? Just some boring, tedious chore to make the auditors happy. It's a really easy trap to fall into.
But what if we just flipped that whole idea on its head? Seriously, what if all that paperwork wasn't a burden at all? What if it's actually the blueprint for your hospital's success? A detailed step-by-step plan for building the absolute safest, most efficient, and highest quality patient care you can imagine.
So why should you care? I mean, really care. Because this is so much more than just ticking a box. Think about it. When your processes are consistent, every single patient gets that same top-tier care. When you have a solid foundation for training, your staff, your team, they feel confident and they know what to do. And this isn't a one-and-done thing. This documentation is the engine that drives continuous improvement, all while giving you crucial legal protection. It really is the why behind everything you do.
Okay, so if this is our blueprint, then we're going to need the right tools to build with, right? That's what we're going to talk about now. Let's stop thinking about this as a giant, messy pile of paper and start seeing it as a well-organized toolkit. And in this toolkit, every single document has a very specific, very important job.
So let's look inside this toolkit. First up, you've got your policies. These are your high-level principles. They're the why we do things. Then you have your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. These are your how-to guides, the step-by-step instructions for getting a task done right. Next, forms and checklists. These are your tools for making sure you capture the same data, the same way, every single time. Your records and registers, that's your proof. It's the log of what happened and when. And finally, the manuals pull it all together, like a big, organized library for your whole system. All right, we've got the blueprint, we've got the toolkit. Now for the most important part. Where do we even begin? How do we take all these great ideas and actually put them into practice where it counts?
When it comes to NABH, you've got to be absolutely solid in 5 main areas. First, everything patient-centered. We're talking patient rights, consent, all of that. Then you've got your clinical processes. You know, the nitty-gritty of medication management and infection control. And of course, the big 3 pillars: quality and safety, human resources, and facility management. Nail the documentation in these 5 areas, and you've built a really strong foundation.
And listen, this is probably the most important thing to remember. Those perfectly written documents, they're totally useless if they're just collecting dust on a shelf. Because the auditors, they're not just going to read your paperwork. They're going to walk the halls. They're going to stop and talk to your staff, your nurses, your lab techs, everyone. They're looking for one thing. Does what happens in real life match what's written on the page? Your practice has to reflect your policies, no exceptions.
So how do you make sure that happens? How do you keep the practice and the paper in sync? Well, you've got to manage these documents like the precious assets they are. First, version control is a must. You can't have people using old procedures. Second, those documents have to be accessible. The right person needs to find the right information right when they need it. Third, a regular annual review cycle is non-negotiable to keep things fresh. Fourth, get a formal approval process in place so leadership is on board. And finally, and this might be the most critical piece, you have to close the loop with great staff training on every single change.
You know, when you start doing all of this, something really cool happens. You start to see a shift in your thinking. The goal stops being just, let's pass this audit. It transforms into something so much more meaningful, something that has real, lasting value for your patients and your staff.
It really all boils down to 2 very different mindsets. On one hand, you have the for the audit mindset, where this is all just a temporary hassle, a static archive of documents you complete and then forget about. It's a burden. But on the other hand, you have the living process mindset. Here, the documentation is part of your culture. It's constantly updated, it's practiced, and it's seen for what it is, a powerful tool for safety. The difference between these two is night and day.
And look, if there's one thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this. This isn't just a nice idea, it's the core truth of the matter. Well-maintained documentation is the backbone of NABH compliance. And why is that? It's simple. It reduces variability, which means every patient gets the same excellent level of care, and that, in turn, enhances patient safety. That's the whole point, isn't it?
So I want to leave you with this one last question to really think about for your own hospital. Be honest. Is your documentation just a dusty archive you pull off the shelf once a year for the auditors, or is it the living, breathing heart of your quality culture? The choice is yours, and so is the opportunity to build something truly excellent. Thanks for joining us.